Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for your patience. Today is Tuesday, October 10th. It is 5:32 p.m., and I will call this board meeting to order. Would you all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. We'll move on to item 1.2, adoption of agenda. Entertain a motion to approve our agenda.
Madam President, I move we adopt the agenda as presented.
Okay.
I'll second it.
It's been moved by Mr. Ware and seconded by Mrs. Hennig. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And at this point, let it be noted for the record that Mrs. Fox is not with us tonight. Okay, reports. Item 2.1, board report. This is an opportunity for each governing board member to report briefly on items such as site visits, governmental relations, conferences, and meetings attended. Does anyone have anything for the good of the order? Perfect. Item 2.2, superintendent's report. Mr. Shaldo, item 2.1, study session posting acknowledgement.
Yes, Madam President, members of the board, I'm including in my report this evening an acknowledgement of an error made in posting our two recent board study sessions. The public notice of the study session did not include the specific topics that were to be discussed at the session, which is a requirement. The meeting was properly noticed, although without the topics included. No legal action was taken at the meetings, therefore there's no requirement for any kind of ratification. The recording was posted for public review in a timely manner, and the minutes were published in a timely manner as well. It is my responsibility as a superintendent to ensure that information released from the district is thorough, accurate, and compliant, and I can assure you that additional checks are in place to prevent this from happening in the future.
Thank you for sharing that. Item 2.2, 2.2.2, High Five Recognition Program, Mr. Munoz.
Madam President, governing board members, we are excited to acknowledge our September High Five employees. If I could please have you guys stand and acknowledge them. We are going to showcase a video that says these incredible things about these fantastic employees.
Quality source, I guess.
We're excited to try out the new screens.
Yeah.
Right? Here we go. Right, one more round of applause for everyone. And we want to individually acknowledge each of our High Five employees. They're all going to have a thank you card from the district, the governing board, and inside the thank you card is a gift card from Mr. G's, $25. Thank you, Mr. You also have a High Five pin you can wear, a High Five t-shirt, and then you have a beautiful plaque there. All right. Congrove Elementary, Nicole Wilhelmi. From Castle Dome, Eva Baez. From Carver, Blanca Hermosillo.
Way to go.
From Learning Services, Danielle McElroy. And I don't see Rachel. Is Rachel here tonight? Rachel Cardenas? Well, let's give her a round of applause. Rachel Cardenas from... One more round of applause for everyone. We are so thankful and fortunate to have you as part of our district, so thank you so much.
Thank you so much. On to item 2.3, donation recognition, Mr. Shelvell.
Madam President, members of the board, it is my pleasure to highlight some of the generosity that our community has shown toward our schools and our districts. Our district this last month. Don Higuera made a donation to the library at Alice Byrne Elementary School valued at $50. Castle Dome Elementary School wrestling team received a donation from Yuma Top Team in the amount of $1,000. C.W. McGraw Elementary School Panda Cares Foundation through Donors Jews donated various items valued at $494. McGraw also received a donation through Donors Choose from PWC, valued at $645. McGraw Elementary Sam's Club donation of soccer balls for PE class, $484. Roosevelt Elementary PTO donated 3 Metallophones, I'm pretty sure I pronounced that right, to the music department with a value of $1,855. Dorothy Hall also received a Donors Choose donation of STEM activity supplies for kindergarten valued at $591. Carver received 2 Donors Choose donations with a combined value of $2,192. They also received 2 APS Supply My Class grants for $500 each for Mrs. Aguayo and where's the other one? Mrs. Martinez's classroom. Carver also received, Mrs. Henderson's classroom. Carver also received a donation from Bell's Outlet in multiple items valued at $600. Otondo received a donation from Brenda Enriquez in the amount of $50. Also, a Donors Choose donation of $238 in the form of math supplies. O.C. Johnson received 2 Donors Choose donations totaling $500. Palmcroft broke the Donors Choose code this last month, 9 Donors Choose donations with a value of $5,633. Woodard, Sun State Environmental Services, $500 donation for 8th grade activities. Woodard also received various supplies in the amount of $500 from Faith Lutheran Church. Roosevelt Elementary received a Donors Choose for their makerspace in the library for $675. Sunrise received 3 Donors Choose donations totaling $1,830. And the district-wide, we received a donation from Kids Need to Read in the form of 1,000 copies of Game Day Rules to be given to all second graders and 532 books to be added to the library circulation collection for an amount of $18,499.99. And in case you're wondering, Game Day Rules is a book about sportsmanship and how to be a good sport. This month's total was $37,338.18. That brings our yearly total already up to $88,657.16. So we're very...
Thank you so much to our Yuma community. On to item 2.4, art recognition. Mr. Sheldon.
Yes, the artwork displayed in the boardroom for the month of October was submitted by Mrs. Williams' classes at Raleigh Elementary School, the Raleigh Roadrunners, Rockstars for short. The 4th and 5th graders did back-to-school backpacks and hoodies. The idea was for students to be able to express themselves and share a little about themselves. 2nd and 3rd graders, the students are working their way through various elements of art. This month it was the element of lines, and they created landscapes with different colored line patterns. They all did an amazing job, so we're happy to put our young artists' work on display as evidence of District 1's commitment to every child receiving art, music, and PE in their schools.
Outstanding. Finally, reports on to 2.5, Governor's Committee on Minimum Adequacy Standards for School Facilities Appointment. Mr. Sheldon.
On June 29th, Governor Hobbs issued an executive order establishing a stakeholder council to update the minimum adequacy guidelines for school facilities. Yuma Elementary School District Number 1 has 60 buildings on its school campuses that are more than 50 years of age. Given the ongoing challenges of maintaining and modernizing these facilities, I thought that a representative from District 1 might be appropriate on this council. Therefore, I applied to be included on the council and was selected to participate. I will be one of 3 public school representatives from Yuma County to serve on the council. So I'm pleased to report that Yuma County Public Schools will be well represented in Maricopa County on this council. And that ends my report for this evening. Thank you very much.
Very much. Thank you for serving. Before we move on, if you were here for the high five and you'd like to make a quick exit before we move on, this would be a good time to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, information items. Item 3.1, enrollment report. Mr. Ponder?
Madam President, members of the board, so enrollment, we held steady, picked up four additional enrollment for from 20th to 40th day. Last year, you'll see 40th to 60th day dipped a little bit before it jumped back up on 80th day, so we'll just kind of keep an eye on how that looks. But I will share that this year's budget was built on 8,447 kids, and when I ran the ADM estimate from ADE today, it estimated us at 8,296 kids, so down 151. So at an average of 5,700, that's about a $860,000 impact to the budget.
Okay. Do you happen to know where we stand as far as Yuma County? Is enrollment down everywhere across the county or just in D1?
It's down at the other elementary school district. I think the high school is up a little bit, but we're not the only elementary school down in Yuma County.
Okay, thank you. Item 3.2, district financial trends. Mr. Ponder.
So you'll see the standard report here. So everything looks normal. Upon approval of the AFR today and then the budget revision in December, this will be updated with the new carry forward balances, which will have the new ending balances and all that information for our beginning budget. So this will look quite different in January after the revision is completed, but everything looks as you would expect. Look like we're in a good position as usual at this time of year.
Any questions for Mr. Ponder on that? Item 3.3, annual financial report. Mr. Ponder.
All right, this is what everyone came for. So see if we can get connected here. You do have a slideshow in front of you. I printed out the slides as well as the actual AFR. All right. Yes, please. Thank you. All right, here we go. Maybe. There we go. All right, so the AFR is our annual financial report, so it's the financial statements for the school district from July 1 to June 30, and we have to have those approved by the 15th of October, so I'll read the blurb here before we get into it. ARS 15-904 requires school districts to prepare and submit an annual financial report to the Arizona Department of Education. The AFR must be submitted electronically in a format jointly developed by the ADE and the Auditor General. The AFR contains revenue and expenditure and other financial information for all district funds for the year ending June 30, 2023. Additionally, the AFR contains site-level reporting as required by statute. You do have a copy of the full AFR in front of you as well as the slideshow. I just want to add real quick that this year's AFR was quite a bit more challenging. It was put out about 2.5 weeks later than usual. It usually comes out at the end of August. It came out a little past the middle of September, which gave us a lot less time to go through all this. In addition to that, they added forms to it that they didn't make us aware of that would be in there. So we had to familiarize ourselves with all those new forms in order to figure out what information they were looking for. And my favorite part was the original release had more than 120 adjustments or corrections that had to be made to it between the release and when we submitted it today. So it was a really fun time for us. But we'll go ahead and get started. So the AFR, what we're going to hit on real quick, the four main areas, the M&O, capital or DAA, how we look for classroom site fund, and then kind of what the future looks like in terms of the information that you see. So the real quick look at M&O is in our May revision, I estimated we'd have $14.7 million to carry forward from 23 to 24. What you see down there on the bottom is we have $22 million to carry forward. Now that number seems high, and it's not the target area we want to be in, but that's $7.2 million higher than we estimated. A lot of that comes from a $5 million grant we were awarded by the state to kind of offset expenses we've incurred due to COVID. And so in addition to ESSER, there was an opportunity to apply for an additional grant, which we did, and we were awarded $5 million, which helped offset our M&O expenses, and that's why you see a significant increase there that we weren't really sure where we would be, this year. But that does help us. We'll talk about it a little bit, but that does help us kind of, like Jamie likes to say, land softly when we see some financial things change here in the next few years. So we'll look at those. So some of the reasons you'll see for that significant budget carry forward in M&O is vacancy savings. We have that in a lot of departments, or certain people placed in positions maybe aren't there for the full year. We have people who resign, and we have to fill those positions, and there are periods of time where no one is in that position, and so we have some savings there. We have encumbrances that get rolled over or that don't get utilized, so that money gets rolled over to the next year. The $5 million grant I mentioned earlier, and then the $2.5 million salary and benefits set aside we place in the M&O budget when ESSER runs out. That way those teachers are already funded and we know that's in there. From a planning perspective, we do have to look at minimum wage increases every year. That comes mid-year, so every January we have minimum wage increases that we have to respond to. Those increases do create some compression in our wage schedules, so we have to adapt to that or kind of look at how those different buckets are affected by that, and we have to respond to that. We're looking at the possibility of some targeted compensation adjustments for some areas where we're having some difficulty filling positions. We're evaluating classroom Class size reductions as well. We did start the self-funded insurance this year, and so we're looking at prepaying some insurance for that, so that can be more solvent and more financially are positioned in a much better financial position as we move forward, so that really becomes the benefit that we want it to be for our folks. ESSER, is going to be, we're going to be transitioning about 32 teachers out of ESSER starting next year, so we'll be using some money for that. And then there's certainly going to be an economic, well, I shouldn't say certainly, right? I can't see the future. There seems to be indicators that there's going to be an economic downturn at some point, and so we want to be in a position where we can mitigate that as much as possible.
Mr. Ponder, the timeline for that grant, is that a one-time? Is it
Yeah.
renewable? And do we use it all this year?
Yeah, it was one time, and it was all used in fiscal year 23. Yep. If more comes available, we'll be sure to jump on it, though. For capital or DAA, when I did the May revision, I estimated a $2.7 million carry forward. It actually was $3.3 million, or almost 3.4, so $627,000 difference. So certainly not as big as M&O, and that's kind of standard. We never know exactly what's going to need to be fixed year after year, and so we want to run a little bit of a buffer there so we can adapt or adjust to things or major things that come up in the year. So that's pretty standard. Some reasons you see for the budget carry forward is the technology refresh. We have $1 million placeholder in capital, even though it's being paid for out of ESSER right now, so that continues to build a little bit. But next year, we'll be paying for that out of capital rather than ESSER, so that's going to start eating into that money some. We do have rollover savings, purchase orders that get entered that don't get fully used, which is the encumbrance releases plus just money we've rolled over from year to year. Being fully funded for this will be the second year we've been fully funded, so it's kind of an experience for us where we were in no mode for 15 years, and it's getting adjusted to that. And so that's where you'll see in the planning section, we're continuing with the furniture refresh. We've refreshed the white fleet vehicles we have. We had a few vans that were certainly older than any kids in our district. They were perhaps aged out, maybe older than college kids. They weren't as reliable vehicles as we wanted for our staff to be able to utilize around town. And so we've replaced some vans here. We've replaced some facilities vehicles as well. So that's an area we're targeting. We do have needs for buses to be replaced as quickly as we can, and so that's something we still focus on. We have to be able to supplement any needs we have that the SFOB can't pay for or doesn't approve, and so we want to have money for that. And this year we started doing some refresh for carpet at our schools. So Carver, there he is the recipient of this year so far, and so that's where we're starting right now. But we want to be able to update that throughout all of our schools. And then the technology refresh, as I mentioned earlier, that's going to start coming out of our capital budget rather than ESSER, and so we have to be ready for that, and having a buffer is always a good thing there. But Dean always negotiates really good deals for us, so we're hoping he keeps that up. All right, regarding classroom site fund, budget was almost $11.5 million. We spent $4.5 million of it, so we've got $7 million left. So I'll just jump onto the next page. That's a really intentional decision we make to underutilize classroom site fund, because what we don't want to have happen, and it's a preference, but our preference is to keep that utilization lower so that teachers don't have to lose revenue in a given year. Some districts across the state give it out as much as they have every single year, but if you generate less revenue, then the teachers get paid less in a given year, and we don't want to do that. We always want to keep them at least flat and then look at incremental increases over time. And so that's why we strategically don't spend all that classroom site fund money, so that we can keep it flat. And if there's volatility in the sales tax, our teachers don't feel that, and that's one of the things we want to do. So it's no longer voter protected, so we could lose it at any moment if the state decides that they want to redirect that money somewhere else. So it's just something we have to be aware of. And so final thoughts in terms of where we're at. We're in a very strong financial position. We have carry forward money. We can weather storms. We do know we have some things coming up in the future that we have to be able. Is my time up? We do know we have some storms or some cliffs coming up that we have to be able to navigate, and so this is going to help us be able to do that. We continue to make fiscally conservative decisions. I really try to overestimate expenses and underestimate revenues so that we have buffers built in addition to trying to make sound decisions. But for the future, again, we are looking at how can we manage some class size reductions, what makes sense if we can. We're trying to anticipate and mitigate any type of downturn that we might see and how we can brace ourselves for that. We will be losing ESSER and Prop 123 money. I should have said discontinuance. I wrote it in there. We're going to be having an ESSER and Prop 123 discontinuance. I'm sorry, I'm really proud of that word. We're going to be addressing capital needs across the district, as I'd mentioned earlier, and then the possibility of the insurance prepayment to make that fund, more solvent and stronger financially. So, it really becomes the benefit that we set out to establish for the folks in our district. So that's all I have.
That's a lot.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Very thorough. Any members of the board have any comments or questions about the AFR for Mr. Ponder? No? Thank you. Well done. All right, information item 3.4, first reading of policy advisories 748 through 752 and 754 through 762. Mr. Sheldon.
Madam President, members of the board, Governing Board of Yuma Elementary School District utilizes the services of Arizona School Board Association to maintain its governing policies and advise the district upon recommended changes. Excuse me. Policy advisories are sent to member school districts and governing board members multiple times throughout the school year, usually to respond to changes in law. This agenda item serves as a first read for proposed policy changes. ASBA Policy Advisories 748 through 752 and 754 through 762 are available on the district's website to facilitate community or employee input. Though no action is required on this agenda item, the superintendent is prepared to address questions, comments, or concerns from governing board members, or if you'd like to read them more thoroughly, I can, of course, always respond in a Friday report or individually.
Any governing board member have any questions or immediate things that pop out at you about those policy advisories you need time to digest probably?
Most of these changes are fairly minimal. They're some timeline updates, some language changes. They're not nearly the impactful policy changes we've seen over recent years past.
Mm-hmm. Okay, then that's a great segue. Let's move on to item 3.5, discussion regarding contract with ASBA. Mr. Feldall.
Yes, Madam President, members of the board, historically Yuma Elementary School District Number 1 has contracted with the Arizona School Board Association as its provider for policy services. Until recently, ASBA was the only provider of comprehensive policy services for school districts. A policy services provider advises school districts regarding new and updated policy recommendations to ensure district policy manuals are up to date and compliant with Arizona and federal laws. With laws being passed and guidance being updated at least yearly, it is vital that school districts receive sound and timely legal advice to ensure that policies reflect current laws and recommended practices. The Arizona School Risk Retention Trust has developed a comprehensive policy services program to add to the multiple services it provides for member public school districts in Arizona, of which we are one. Many school districts around the state have contracted with or are considering contracting with the Trust for policy services. So I offer this as an opportunity for public discussion for the board regarding our policy services providers. There will be no action taken this evening, but it could inform our future path.
So this is an opportunity for us to discuss the merits of ASBA, or do we consider going with the trust, or actually fact-finding about what would be the benefit of moving from ASBA to the trust. So what are your thoughts? We went to the law conference together in September, and we got a lot out of that, but that doesn't mean that conference is the reason why we stay with them.
I have a question, Madam President. So I wonder, how much does our ASBA membership cost taxpayers per year?
So I can answer that. It's we pay about $12,500 a year for our district membership, and then the policy services is just a little over $5,000 a year, and so that's the annual cost. And then if there was a desire to break from the current contract, we would have to prepay the rest of our 3-year contract. We're in year 1 of it right now, so we have 2 years. So we would have to pay the $5,000 per year. So it'd be $10,000 to break that.
What's the cost to belong to the trust or contract with them?
The initial setup is somewhere around $5,000. It's like $5,024 or something like that. But it's about $5,000 for the initial setup, and then the annual fee is $240. Is that right, Jamie? Yeah, it's $240 for their policy service.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
That's considerable savings. And now you mentioned paying out the contract, but there's nothing to say that we couldn't live out the contract and take our time to transition from, because we can't be without policy, and the policy that we're using is copyrighted. It's copyrighted to ASBA. So if we continue to use it, we need to be members of ASBA. If we move to the trust, then we would use the policies they recommend, which is coincidentally connected to our council that we already work with. So the people who would be defending us, should we be in a lawsuit, the trust would also be helping us write the policies that would prevent us from having litigation. So that would be a good fit, and it's a huge cost savings. But we wouldn't necessarily have to ditch one. We could take our time transitioning. If we're going to have to pay them anyway, keep or go. I don't know. It's just a thought. You and I have talked about this a little bit at the conference. What are your thoughts about ASBA or moving or?
Well, I think there might even be another option too, seeking separate counsel to establish policy for the board. Either path requires the board to review all of the policy. I think it's about the trust, a little more research to find out what the trust is, where they're at, and but so I mean, I guess we have a couple of options if we want to get away from the ASBA, but we still have the option to take the training. We just pay as a non-member, so you still do the law conference, the onboarding of new board members. So that's all still available.
Right.
I think we have a couple of options, and perhaps we should explore finding pros and cons of each one of them in some sort of a chart of what ASBA has available, what the trust has, and what would be an option if we sought our own counsel to write our policy and represent us.
Yeah, I think if we're paying for the ASBA, we should continue to use the services while we're paying for it, for whatever we need from it, while we're going to transition to something else.
Yeah, we can use this time as time to thoroughly go through the policy and establish those policies. So when we choose to, if we choose to, a policy in place, ready to go.
Mr. Sheldon, would there be time before our work session? Is it the 23rd?
Yes, Madam President, I've reached out to the Trust Policy Services Council, and I have not received final confirmation, but the Trust attorney that oversees the policy services indicated that she would be available to give a presentation to the board on the 23rd at our next study session. So
It's a good informational first step.
yeah, it could give
Just what one thing is out
that
there.
information can include not only the product but also the process and the process for transitioning and some timelines. They offer 2 or 3 different recommended time frames for transition, but board member Ware is accurate that it's an arduous process to migrate policy from one policy services provider to another. If you are curious, just go in my office and look at the policy manual that I think is 2 manuals that are about in 8-inch binders or something like that. It's like 16 inches of paper. So but that I would recommend, if possible, that we move forward toward getting that information, so the board can make a good, sound decision based on all the information necessary.
And we'll do what's right for our board and our students and our constituents, but knowing that I understand that there are some other districts in the county that are going to perhaps move that direction. We're not just flying solo here. There are a lot of people that are perhaps looking for other alternatives. Okay, anybody want to add anything else about this information item? So for our work study session, have some information about the trust, and we can continue to look at what else is out there and how else we can go about getting that policy written.
Yes, I reached out yesterday for confirmation. I believe she's actually in Yuma this evening, presenting at for another board.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for that information. Now we will have a succinct and eloquent presentation about athletics from Ms. Logan and Mr. Nunez.
Yes, Madam President, we're going to end our information session on a positive note. And we're going to highlight some of the activities that help us keep our kids healthy and engaged and challenged.
Madam President, am I on?
It's red.
Use your playground voice.
I have one. Madam President, members of the board, I'm here with Mr. Nunez, and we are going to highlight some of Yuma School District 1 sports, both elementary and middle school. As soon as our new screen works.
PowerPoint's bouncing up and down, so it's doing some extra calisthenics, it looks like.
Some warm-up, some pregame.
So, as we know, and Mr. Sheldall reminds us every month, every student in District 1 receives art, music, PE, and we get to go to the library. But he's during the school day. He is one piece. What we want to do is highlight sports. So I can speak about elementary. Growing up, I was an athlete, and that saved my life. So coming in, I think we should have sports all over Yuma. And what we have found is that rec sports are very expensive. So how do we allow all students to play sports, and we bring them to school? So not only do students benefit physically, so obviously physical health and fitness is a big piece of sports, but we have found that it helps in academic performance. So I know in middle school they have to be eligible to play, so that's academics. In elementary school, we hold that as well. So we do not take students to tournaments if they're failing academically. And then of course it builds a strong sense of community. It shows pride in the school, shows pride in our Yuma community when we all get together and play against one another. But best part is personal development. So again, the physical piece is great, but making friends, learning how to problem solve, teamwork skills, enjoying sports, and finding lifelong passion is a huge piece that we have found from allowing our students to participate in sports.
I think the ambition that we have with our children, with our students, is that we want that exposure, we want that excitement, but we want that holistic development. You know, very few get a chance to do this for a living, but if we're able to teach a child how to own a mistake, how to respect authority, how to take direction, how to put some commitment behind the hard work of development, I'll take that colleague any day of the week. And I'm standing right next to one. You know, Miss Angela Logan, great teammate.
So what do we offer? We offer 5th grade tournaments, including Price's 4th grade, because they want very music, right? We also have the 4th through 6th 2 years ago. And then 7th and 8th grade sports. We also have Special Olympics that happen a few times a year. And then the new Mesa Heights Athletics Academy, which Mr. Nunez could speak more on that.
Yeah, the concept is to run open gym, open field opportunities for students to do some pickup play and then organize themselves into the opportunity to play, for example, basketball, red pennies versus blue pennies versus yellow pennies. And again, you're developing, it's a tournament bracket, but it's not like a commitment of having to travel across the country to some $2,000 tournament.
And this is my favorite part. We do take our middle school students and they become our student leaders. So they are referees and umpires. So they have to learn not only the rules of the sport, but how to problem solve, how to address adults that might be a little confrontational because of the call. The organization and Coach Huff from Gila Vista and her student leaders have helped elementary sports tremendously, and I know that our students look up to their students because of things like this.
And there's a video that we prepared that'll show highlight some of those student leaders serving as referees, umpires, and like Mrs. Logan called out, having the opportunity to mediate some of that tension when a call happens that doesn't go your team's way.
Many of us can remember a time when youth athletics was a neighborhood, school, or community-based event. When Sandlot was calling our name, much more than an Xbox, a PlayStation, or a cell phone. At a time when youth athletics had become a $17 million industry in our country, when youth sports have gotten more exclusive for children to access, and more out of reach in terms of affordability for families and children, our Yuma Elementary School District 1 school board and educators have never wavered in their commitment to providing engaging and inclusive athletic opportunities for our children that are rich in variety and that are also developmentally appropriate in developing and cultivating the athletic interests of a child. Our school district not only offers PE for every student at every grade level, but we also offer a variety of other athletic opportunities, such as Special Olympics, 4th to 6th grade track meets, 5th grade elementary school sports tournaments, 6th grade intramurals, 7th and 8th grade athletic conference team sports, and then a recent innovation in the launch of the Mesa Heights Athletics Academy, none of which would be possible without parental, community, and school board support. For decades, School District 1 has offered junior high 7th and 8th grade sports through the Southern Yuma County Interscholastic Association. But in recent school years, thanks to school board funding, we have also added 6th grade intramurals. 6th grade intramurals that are aligned to our 7th and 8th grade seasons of sport provide early exposure to athletic competition in a fun, tournament-based approach, which gives students early exposure and confidence to sign up and join these very same sports programs once they're eligible to compete in their 7th and 8th grade years. Our 5th grade elementary school tournaments follow a similar model, but they also introduce students to kickball, which is a great form of exercise and helps students learn a modified version of baseball and softball rules. An added benefit of the 5th grade tournaments, they allow for our junior high student athletes to learn what it's like being a referee, an umpire, or other game official, since it's our very own students who are learning how to call a game. This is a great way to build respect for those who make the calls on the field and course of play. Our track meets serve students from 4th, 5th, and 6th grades, and are done in partnership with Yuma Union High School District, as they have generously hosted us at Cola High School and Healy Ridge High School over recent years. Special Olympics is another amazing opportunity our students have, where they learn that every single person is accepted and welcomed. General education and special education students learn to compete together in track and field events while emphasizing acceptance, respect, and inclusion. And all students learn that everyone is capable of participating in all aspects of life by focusing on abilities rather than limitations. Our newest athletic innovation in our district is the development of the Mesa Heights Athletics Academy, hosted at Gila Vista Junior High School. The Mesa Heights community is perfectly positioned with the facilities at Gila Vista and the Athletic Complex to deliver gym basketball, open gym badminton, softball, baseball, we are committed to providing healthy athletic opportunities that are free, accessible, and provide athletic development and competition while leveraging partnerships with the City of Yuma Parks Recreation Department and other co-sponsor organizations such as Yuma Catch and Go Football and YBDL Little League. Participation in athletics during the foundational years of education, from kindergarten through 8th grade, is an essential component of a well-rounded education, and it is why Yuma Elementary School District 1 has chosen to invest in physical education, intramurals, and athletic programs that are accessible to all of our students in our school district.
Open the floor to any questions.
Well done.
It's fun.
I'd like to say something if I may.
For it.
So I'm on board with this. Absolutely. This is, sport's really important. You know, I was thinking that while I was watching that, for some students, that may be the only real sense of exercise that they get. Plus, when students are in the classroom, it's good to get out and get exercise. So I just see a huge benefit to this, and thank you for the presentation.
Yes, thank you.
Good point. Good job. Very well done. Thank you for that. At this time, we are at item 4, call to the public. The governing board welcomes statements from residents and appreciates constructive suggestions and comments that help meet the education needs of the district. The completed form should be submitted by 5:30 p.m. the day of the meeting, which is traditionally the second Tuesday of the month. Ms. Ricka and Ms. Amalia, do we have any? Okay, there being none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Item 5. Approval of these items are of a routine nature, and those that normally do not require deliberations on the part of the governing board. A board member may pull items which will be discussed and voted on separately. I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Madam President, I move we accept the consent agenda as presented.
I will second.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Ware and seconded by Mr. Geyer to approve the consent agenda as presented. Is there any discussion? There being none, let's vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Action items. Item 6, 6.1, second reading of policy advisory. Dr. Elka.
Madam President, members of the governing board, thank you. As discussed in our September board meeting, this policy authorizes the district to make school-based referrals to community behavioral health providers in compliance with ARS 36-3436.01. The state of Arizona has set aside a fund for children's behavioral health services or services provided through Access in the event that the child or family are uninsured or underinsured. This fund is designed to assist children in receiving health-related services. Through this policy, the district is directed to follow a process for parents to opt in to these school-based referrals annually. The district will post this policy as well as the community providers with whom the district contracts on the district website, and parents who receive school-based referrals will be surveyed each year, and the results of that survey will be sent to Access Administration. This policy and process will allow our students who may not be able to afford these needed services to benefit from this funding source. It is recommended that the board adopt this policy for school-based referrals to other agencies.
Okay, I move that we adopt policy JLDAB for school-based referrals to other agencies.
A second.
It's been moved by Mrs. Klostreich, seconded by Mr. Ware to adopt this policy. Is there any discussion? There being none, let's vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. 6, School Bus Safety Week resolution. Mr. Ponder.
All right, I would like to invite Mr. Sheepers to come up and whereas and therefore you. And then once he's done, I would like to recommend that the governing board approve the attached resolution declaring the week of October 16th to the 20th, 2023, Yuma Elementary School District 1 School Bus Safety Week.
Well, thank you, Mr. Ponder. Madam President, board members, superintendent. So I'm just glad to be here to read this resolution for School Bus Safety Week. The motto this year for School Bus Safety Week is safely rolling to my destination. So, the proclamation. Whereas the safety of our children is the paramount importance to our community and society as a whole. is the safest form of ground transportation available and a vital means of transportation for millions of students, ensuring they have access to their education. And whereas the exemplary performance of more than 200 bus operators and transportation staff ensure the safe, efficient transportation of Yuma Elementary School District 1 students. And whereas ensuring the safety of students while traveling to and from school is a shared responsibility of parents, students, educators, and the broader community. Whereas School Bus Safety Week provides an opportunity to educate students, parents, and the public about the importance of safe behavior around school buses. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Governing Board of Yuma Elementary School District 1 hereby proclaim October 16th through the 20th of 2023 as School Bus Safety Week and call upon all citizens, educators, parents, and students to observe this week with activities, discussions, and initiatives that promote and emphasize school bus safety. Let us work together to ensure that every child can travel to and from school safely on our school buses by raising awareness and adhering to safety rules, and can reduce accidents and protect the well-being of our students.
Ron, well said. I'll entertain a motion to adopt the resolution. Moved. Moved by Mrs. Hennig,
Second?
second by Mr. Ware, to adopt the resolution that was read by Mr. Sheepers, recognizing October 16th through the 20th, 2023 as School Bus Safety Week. Is there any discussion? Being none, let's vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Action item 6.3, adoption of district board goals for the 23-24 school year. Mr. Sheldall.
Madam President, members of the board has convened in 2 study sessions this fall to discuss the path forward for our district in terms of district goals for the current school year. I'd like to commend the governing board on their thoughtful discussion and consideration. These goals represent essential areas that have a positive impact on our schools and our students. You can see the draft listed in the board book. The goals center around 3 core areas. The first, of course, being student achievement. The second being facilities, quality facilities. And the third being continued parent and community engagement and communication. We did provide you with kind of a gussied up version, a little more polished for this evening, but I think it's also important that the board is taking action this year to formally adopt these goals in as an action item. So it's recommended that the governing board will adopt the district board goals for the 2023-2024 school year.
I move that we adopt these goals for the school year.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Ware. Moved by Mrs. Clostrike, seconded by Mr. Ware, to adopt the district board goals for the 23-24 school year. Is there any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We have official goals. All right, on to item 6.4. Consideration to approve the annual financial report. Mr. Ponder.
Madam President, members of the board, in accordance with ARS 15-904, Arizona school districts are required to prepare and submit an annual financial report to the Arizona Department of Education. So before I read the recommendation, I just want to say a quick thank you to a few people who helped be able to put that together. Jamie Walden does a lot of work in the finance piece of this, and so she's to be thanked for that. Rashara, who does our fixed assets, has done a good job with that. Deanna Servin provides information, Luciano Briones, Rika Farkas, Dwayne Shepard, and then Lisa Thrower as well. So a lot of people come together to put the full report together. So I just wanted to say thank you to those individuals for the work they do all year to be able to provide that information. So it is recommended that the governing board approve the fiscal year 2023 annual financial report as presented in this meeting.
Madam President, I move we approve the annual financial report as presented.
I'll second it. It's been moved by Mr. Ware and seconded by Mrs. Hennig to approve the AFR as presented in this meeting. Is there any discussion?
I have a question for you, Mr. Ponder. So is this AFR report, is it audited by a CPA firm?
Yes, so we submit this, and then our auditing firm, which is Heinfeld Meach, will review it, and they'll put together probably a more standard financial statement that you might be used to seeing in terms of fund accounting and those kinds of things. But they'll put a document together. They'll check our compliance with the USFR questionnaire to make sure we adhere properly to the requirements in that. They actually are coming next week to do their final review of last fiscal year. Because the AFR, along with their audit, is what we have to submit to the GFOA and ASBO International to get those awards that we've applied for in previous years. But yes, they do look through that information to make sure that we're compliant.
Thank you.
Yep.
Great question. Thanks to your entire team. Okay, there's a motion on the table. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Let's get that out. Okay, item 7.0, future agenda items. Do we have any potential agenda items for next meeting? If not at this time, remember to get those into me or Mr. Sheldall or even Mr. Ware a week before the next meeting. Okay, there being no other items, I officially adjourn this meeting.